All right, good, 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 good. Just a minute late, unlike last week. Unlike in the past, we've had issues getting the show started right on time, but we have it started right on time. Excellent. Okay, so the unscripted is a individual show brought to you by me. All right, let's go back here. So we're gonna refresh the chat real quick. Apparently that's not gonna. Okay, no, that's not. All right, well, hopefully things will work. Let me do that. So we got a lot to go over. Real quick, the first thing we're gonna go over is we're gonna do the look back at the week in college football, so that we can so we can know what uh, we uh, we go over the so you can call me out for the games I got wrong. We're gonna start with college football. We're gonna preview this week's games, and um, and we'll go on from there. So let's start with the NCAA NFL NCAA football scores from last week. Okay, I don't care. Here we go. Then last week's games. Okay, starting with let's see. We gotta go back 2 more days because we had a lot of games. So apparently it's not gonna let me go back any further than that. So we'll just start with Ohio State and Northwestern. I was very close. I had Ohio State, so that's a win. Check. Um, Ohio State, 59 of them, 59-10 over Northwestern. Final was 52-3. Ohio State looked like the Ohio State that we've expected to see them come out, blow out their opponents, and move on to the next week. And we'll get into the next. We'll preview next week's schedule when we get there. So then on the 19th, so this is all your Saturday games. So we had, did I actually? That one I got wrong. I thought West Virginia was going to come out and play a much better game. I thought that they could give Oklahoma a battle. Every week you have a crazy upset. Got that one wrong. All right. Then we had Purdue and Iowa, which is right here. I almost got that one right, but again, another, you never know. College football, Iowa did win that one. So then Auburn and Arkansas, I had that one 44-17. It was 51-10, so pretty close. Pretty close to right on. And this is different. This is actually set up differently than it was set up last week when I was doing the scores. I had Minnesota. Minnesota absolutely rolled. I didn't think they'd score as many points as they did, but I did have that one right. And then, so then LSU and Mississippi is somewhere in here. Where does LSU and Mississippi? I thought I put it down here. No, that apparently I missed that one somehow. Baylor, Oregon, Washington. Oh, here it is. I had it 39-10. It was 36-13. So got that one right. Tulsa and Cincinnati. Tulsa and Cincinnati. I had Tulsa winning that one. So I got that one wrong. Tulsa and Cincinnati. Here we go. But so I got that one wrong. Baylor and Oklahoma State. I thought Oklahoma State might have snuck in and stole one, but got that one wrong too. Baylor was much better. Georgia and Kentucky and Georgia. Thought that was going to be a lot closer. Or I thought that was going to be much more of a blowout for Georgia. Was a lot closer than I thought it would be. So, but I got that one right. Kansas and Texas. I had Texas rolling, but Kansas gave them a battle. In the end, Texas did manage to pull it off, so I got that one right. Then you have Tennessee and Alabama. Tennessee put up more of a fight than I thought they would. They managed to score. I didn't think they would, but I got that one right. So we'll slide over here. BYU beat Boise State. I did not see that coming, so got that one wrong. And then Penn State beat Michigan. Got that one wrong. Utah beat Arizona State, so I got that one wrong. Vandy beat Mizzou, so I got that one wrong. I did not see that one coming either. Appalachian State thumped Louisiana Monroe. I had them 35-10. It was 52-7. So, I mean, a blowout is a blowout. SMU versus Temple was one of the games that I had here. And Temple, SMU won again. I did not see that one. I didn't realize how good Temple or SMU was, so I got that one wrong. Oregon and Washington. I had Washington winning that game. I thought that was going to be a surprise upset, but I was wrong. Oregon did win. A lot of losses this week for myself. I didn't pick as well as I thought I did. Then you had Florida and South Carolina, and Clemson and Louisville. I had Clemson winning. I had Florida winning. I had Wisconsin winning. I got that one wrong. Got those two wrong too. All right, and then I don't see Air Force. Oh, maybe that was this week. Is that yesterday? No. All right. So that's the week in review in the NCAA. Let's go ahead and grab, and we'll get into the in the start of the week. We'll go to we'll talk about the ends. We'll preview the NCAA here in a minute, but when we get into the second half of the show, or the after we get done with the NFL, because we got the power rankings to go and all of that good stuff. So let's review the NFL scores. From October 24th, last week. Oh, that was last night actually. Did I take the? I missed that game, didn't I? Yeah, I did. I missed. I forgot about the Thursday night game last week. That's my bad. I forgot about the Thursday night game this week. All right, so let's expand that. I had the Chiefs beating the Broncos, so I got that one right. I had the Packers over the Raiders, so I got that one right. Rams over the Falcons, got that one right. I had the Niners over the Skins, got that one right. I got that one wrong. I had the Texans losing to the, or I had the Colts losing to the Texans. I got that one wrong. And then I had the Vikings over the Lions. I got that one right. Jags over the Bengals. I got that one right. Cards over the Giants. Got that one right. Bills over the Dolphins. The Bills put that game away late. In a much closer, much more competitive game than I thought it would be. I had the Chargers over the Titans. I got that one wrong, unfortunately. The Chargers should have won that game late there in the late. I really thought that they should have put them away. Then I had the Hawks over the Ravens. Got that one wrong. I had the Saints over the Bears. I got that one right. And I had the Eagles over the Cowboys. I got that one wrong. And then I had the Patriots over the Jets, who I thought were going to put up a much better fight, but obviously they didn't. And we'll get into that in the next, when we go into the power rankings, and what a mess that the Jets organization is, as some of you may already know. All right, so last week in the NFL, I went, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I went 10 for 14 last week. 10 for 14 last week. A pretty good week, I think. The only thing that I missed was the only game I missed. I forgot about the Thursday night game from last night. Unfortunately. So then, and we'll go ahead and get into the scores and recap or preview the week this week. Got some interesting games, interesting matchups for some teams that are looking to make some hay and to move up. A lot of 1 o'clock kicks this week. So we'll see what happens in this week's NFL schedule. So let's go ahead and we'll move on to the next segment of this show. And don't worry, we'll get into the picks and all that before the end of the show. So we're gonna get into the power rankings because this is my favorite part of the show. This is the Week 8 NFL power rankings. Normally, generally the longest portion of the show before the obligatory rant, which is scheduled for this week. Which is scheduled for after the at the end of the show. All right. So the NFL power rankings this week at 32, 31. You're all trash. You're both terrible. 32, 31, 30, 29, 28. Interchangeable in my opinion. Anyone you could put any team, and any of those 4 teams could all move up or down, regardless. And I wouldn't argue or quibble with anyone if they wanted to rank all of them, interchange. I think they're all interchangeable. So you have at 32, I got Miami. Miami is a mess. They're such a mess. Are they tanking? Are they trying to win? What are they doing? Really, is what I gotta know. I gotta know: are they tanking? Are they trying? What's going on? Because if they're tanking to go and get Tua, who is apparently on the shelf now in Alabama, and I don't know if he's going to be back for this week's game against whoever they're playing. Arkansas, they say probably won't need him for the Arkansas game. But anyway, if you really are you now targeting Hurts? Is a quarterback what they really need? Is a quarterback going to be, you're going to go get a young quarterback, right? A guy that's not going to have NFL experience, who's not going to be an NFL starter, and you're going to put him on a team that has no offensive line, has no wide receivers, can't run the ball, has no running backs that can take a load off, that can compete in the NFL. To take pressure off of him, you got a young head coach. They're probably gonna fire their head coach at the end of the year, if not before. You're gonna have another coach that's gonna have to rebuild, whether it be a first-year coach or maybe even Jim Harbaugh. I've heard that rumor that Harbaugh might go back to the NFL. He's also said that he's not leaving Michigan. So you're gonna have either or another first-year coach, and especially if Arizona does well and can compete in the NFC West, which looks like they might be able to. They could be a wild card team at this point. They could sneak into the wild card at 9-7-1 or 9-6-1, and that's all those things are still out in front of them. Arizona has a chance to become a competitive team and make a move before Tuesday and go and get themselves a piece or two. Who knows? And then they could have a real threat, become a real threat to make a late season or mid-season playoff run. We won't know until we get there. So, reviewing the first 8 weeks of the NFL season, I got Miami at 32. At 31, I got the Bungles. Good Lord, are they terrible? What are they doing? I don't get it. I don't understand the front office there in Cincinnati, because they look so inept. It looks so bad, and it's just the same. Any one of these teams' front offices are just terrible. Excuse me, I want to get a little more comfortable. This is an off-the-cuff show, so it's a lot more relaxed. Not a lot of high production value neither. So bear with me. My Cincinnati, Andy Dalton's not the answer. I don't know what is the answer, but Andy Dalton clearly. I'm not even sure what the question is at this point. But the answer is not Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton is not the answer, unfortunately. I think Andy Dalton could have been a great NFL quarterback. Yeah, and great being a relative term, not legendary or not, Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or Drew Brees, but a great NFL quarterback, a very competitive, maybe an Eli Manning type career, wins more than he loses, throws fewer touchdowns than he throws interceptions. He had AJ Green for the longest time. He had Mohamed Sanu. I forget that Sanu was in Cincinnati before they shipped him off to um, Atlanta. And we'll talk about the moves that were made in this last week, and some moves that I think could be made. We'll get into that after the. We'll talk about that after we talk about the we have finished the power rankings here. At 29, I got Washington. They lost last night to the Vikings. They're now 1-6, 1-8, 1-7, something like that. They're just terrible. They're bad. Another I don't know what Snyder's gonna do. Haskins doesn't look like the answer. Alex Smith is still on the shelf. We don't know if he's coming back. We don't know when he's coming back. We don't know how good he is gonna be when he comes back. He's gonna be like 34 when he comes back. When he gets back to on the field, if he gets back on the field. Uh, and I don't know if they're targeting him for a. He's 35. Um, that's incredibly long in the tooth for an NFL quarterback. Coming off major leg surgery. I don't know. I understand. I want to compete. I want to get back out there. I want to show that I can um, actually do my job and earn the money that I've been offered. But it's not hard. It's not unreasonable for me to think that he may just call it a career at the end of this year, take his money and go off and have a nice life. So I don't know what Washington's gonna do. The Giants, they're a team that I thought was gonna make a push. That NFC East is wide open. There's not a great team in the NFC East right now, and I really thought that New York was gonna make a push. So this is surprising to me that um, that they didn't do anything, that they really didn't make any moves, because I really thought they should have targeted the Washington Trent Williams, I think is his name. Yeah, Trent Williams. And that old lineman that's been holding out. I thought they should have made a move to go try and go get him, or go get any offensive lineman to offer up a second and a first. Because the reason I say that is I want a established veteran presence on that offensive line. It's going to make your offense. It's going to give your, especially if you can go get one from a crummy team like a Cincinnati or a Miami, a good offensive lineman that can help stabilize that offensive line and give that offensive line some push. Because you can bring along the rest of the guys. If you get yourself one good lineman, you can make the other four linemen that much better. Even though I don't think they're that awful, I don't think that the Giants are that far off. I like Daniel Jones. I've been high on Daniel Jones since day one, since they drafted him. When they went out and they got him, I looked up Josh Daniels' film. And I was watching some reviews, and I was looking at his throws, and people were talking about how he did this great quarterbacks coach at Duke. And I'm like, Duke's not a football school. I said this from the beginning. I said, Duke's not a football school, and B, their coach had Peyton, and everybody was talking about what a wonderful quarterbacks coach he was. He had two of the best college quarterbacks ever, Peyton Manning and Eli Manning. He had the Manning boys. And then other than that, he's had nobody, and when he's had nobody, they stunk. He stunk as a coach. He hasn't made quarterbacks. He hasn't sent a dozen quarterbacks to the NFL. He sent two. Two great quarterbacks. Two quarterbacks that were great on their own. And Peyton Manning was a legend in the NFL and world class, and he was a legend in college and world class in the NFL. And Eli Manning was world class in college. Eli Manning was a great college quarterback. And I know that's not saying a lot. A lot of quarterbacks are great in college who stink in the NFL. Looking at you, Matt Leinart. And, you have to forgive my dry throat. It's very dry in here today. So I was looking at Daniel Jones' film, and what I saw was good decision making, poor throws. And that's mechanics. I saw a lot of back foot throws. I saw a lot of not sliding up in the pocket, and that's mechanics. Good decision making. There's one throw against Tennessee, I think it was. I don't remember. Some orange team, maybe Syracuse, where he put the ball on his receiver's back shoulder, and the linebacker came around and knocked it away. And if he puts that ball out here, where the receiver can make a catch, if he puts it down here, and obviously you can't really. Yeah, let me see the camera. Let me find the camera. If you think this is the if this is the if this is the this if this is the field right here at the bottom of the camera, if he puts it right here at the right there where the receiver can go down and get it and grab it and pull it in, that's a catch. So catch and a first down, continues the drive, and I think that was a last second drive, or it was either at the beginning of was either in the middle of the second quarter or at the end of the game. I don't remember right. I'd have to go and look and find the video. And I liked the throw. I liked the decision making. But he put the ball in a bad spot. That's a good decision, a bad throw, and that's correctable. That's fixable. I can fix that. I can take you aside and go, all right, Jones. Look, Daniel. It's a good read. Good read, right read. You made the right read. But you made a bad throw. You know, a, a, the difference between a bad read and a bad throw is the difference between being able to coach a player and not being able to coach a player. If you're constantly throwing into triple and double coverage, and you also have to think about who his receivers are and what his situation is there in college, and having Duke and not being a very good offense, not having a very good offensive line, and getting them a better offensive line, giving them more confidence. They can establish Saquon Barkley. Barkley's probably the best running back in the game right now. Maybe outside of Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook looks like a world beater. And we'll talk about Minnesota here in a little bit. But moving on from New York, who I think is the team that's on the cusp. They got, if they can get another, if you can get another defensive player, in the draft, that's what I would do. I would trade up or trade out of the first round to get an offensive lineman, and maybe you trade a first for an offensive lineman and a third, maybe a first and a second for an offensive lineman and a third and a fourth. You don't necessarily have to be in the top of the draft to get good players. You can make some hay in the later rounds by being smart and savvy and reading and studying and having interviews. And I do want to talk about being a GM before the end of the show tonight, and talking about just in general, and not just in football, but in sports in general. So, without further ado, we're on to Oakland. Oakland. A team that had high aspirations. They wanted to challenge for the West, challenge for that first or second wild card spot at the beginning of the year. 3-3 going into last week, coming off their bye, had Green Bay, a team that had struggled against Detroit and won in a controversial fashion. And they wanted to take another step. They wanted to take a step further. And they certainly took a step, but it was in the wrong direction. Alex Smith, not Alex Smith. David Carr. Daniel Carr? Whatever, the Carr kid. Got benched at the end of the game, or in the middle of the second quarter. So at a certain point, Carr got benched, which is frustrating to me because I like David Carr. I thought they should have pulled him out of the game earlier. They should have sat him down in last season after the back got hurt, let him get right but he kept trying to go out there and play, and he couldn't put any torque on the ball. Yeah, I know that torque. Had torque. I mean, and one of the things that made Doug Flutie so good, and I know it's random and all over the place, but talking about Oakland and talking about David Carr is Doug Flutie's lower body. He was built like a tree, and he could get a lot of oomph out of the ball with his legs. He was able to throw the ball 30, 40, 50 yards downfield with just his legs. His arm motion is very, very smooth and very crisp and very over the top. And he was able to drive the ball down the field with his legs than with his arm. You see a lot of guys that throw the ball with their arm, and they whip their arm and they whip the ball, and they're not as accurate as somebody that throws with their legs. And if you throw with your legs and you come out of that high arm slot and you quick release and you're up and down, And that's what I think. That's one thing that I think has hurt David Carr over the last year or two is that his back he couldn't get any torque on the ball. He couldn't get any. He was relying on his arm way too much. Which when you're trying to throw with your arm, just your arm, and you can't plant and drive with your legs, what ends up happening is that you end up having errant throws because you're relying on your arm too much, and if this is your arm slot and you're over here just a little bit, if you come over your shoulder, is how I was taught to throw a ball. You grab, you take the snap, back, up, and down, and if you're over, if you're supposed to be here or here, and you're out here because your back's giving you issues, and you don't have a good offensive line, and you're trying to get the ball out quick, and you throw from here, and you have a different arm angle, you end up with excuse me, my arm's a little sore now. You end up with a little bit of you end up with the ball out here, which means the ball can sail on you, and you end up throwing the ball. You end up throwing the ball over your receiver, or, and especially you miss your receiver by 2 yards, and it's a difference of 6 inches, from here to here, or here to here to here, 12 inches across your shoulder. That can make a huge difference. So then you got the Jets. That's a team. That's a team that is such a mess that it's ridiculous what a mess they are. Offense, defense, special teams. It's just a miserable thing. I feel for you, Jets fans, because your team's miserable right now. You're a... No, I do. Okay. I have comments. Well, how about that? Patty's just work. Yeah, I agree. They were car benched. Yeah, he did. He did give him. He was just playing bad. I apologize for not getting your comments. I appreciate your comments. So, back to the Jets. Did I say David? I meant Derek. Thank you. Sorry about that. So the Jets. What are we gonna do with you guys? Get rid of you? No, I know you can't do that. Sorry, New York, you lose your franchise. No, I'm kidding. They just look like they have no confidence. I liked the hiring of Adam Gase. I honestly did. I thought Adam Gase was a much better coach. I thought that he was. I liked what he did in Miami. I wouldn't have gotten rid of him. I would have kept him. I would have let him try to build that program up and seen what they could do. And that was such a thing that but I thought he was going to have a much better year in New York. I thought he was going to have a more productive year down there, and that was, to me, that was one of the strangest things was them getting rid of him. I would have kept him. I would have kept him at least one more year to see what he could have done and seen where he could have taken that Miami team. But and I didn't think he was gonna. But then I hear, they had one of the worst drafts ever according to most GMs out there. I was watching Colin Cowherd yesterday, or no, it was a clip from his show. As I was watching after the Monday night game. I think it was on Tuesday. He was reviewing the Monday night game, and he was talking about the fact that they were planning on firing their GM in like January. They had started talking about it, and they were talking about it in March and talking about it in February, and in April they just let him do the draft. And then they had one of the worst drafts of all time, just a terrible draft. And the day after the draft, they fire him. Why? Who knows? And then they hire Greg Williams, who won't get along, who doesn't or won't. I'm not sure if it's a kind of a won't-y thing with Greg Williams and Adam Gase, but they don't get along. but they hire him anyway. Why? Because it's the Jets. Because they're, when you're a bad run organization, you do bad things. Like not firing your GM before he makes one of the worst drafts of all time. Not bringing in a defensive coordinator that doesn't work with your head coach. Ugh. Why are we doing these things? Because we're the Jets and we stink. And um, at 25, I got Cleveland. An incredibly disappointing season in Cleveland. I thought you guys, all you Cleveland fans, talking smack, talking a big game. Couple of wins, couple of big games, couple of important things going on. A lot of big moves. Went out and got OBJ, made some moves, and then all of a sudden they're 2-5. They're 2-5 and don't look good. Don't look good at all. And then this is such a confounding team because one week they go out and they beat Baltimore and hand them their butts. They handed Baltimore their asses on a silver platter, and they looked bad. And they made Baltimore look bad. And then the next week they come out and lose to San Francisco and lose badly to San Francisco. Oh, who are you? Who are you? What are you? Cleveland? Cleveland, what are you? Are you a team that wants to compete for a division title? Are you a team that wants to compete for a wild card? Or are you a team that's just going to stink yet again? Oh no, we suck. Again. And a team that had such high hopes going into the season, and then all of a sudden now they're trash. I don't get it. I don't get it. They should. And then Baker Mayfield has looked terrible. And I don't know if that's the offensive coordinator. I don't know if it's the head coach. I don't know if it's the quarterback's coach. I don't know if it's play calling. But Baker Mayfield has looked like a rookie. And this is his second season. And I liked Baker Mayfield. I liked his bravado. I liked his moxie, his spunk. I thought he could have an excellent NFL career. But so far, he's looked like a miserable, miserable failure. He looks like he's on the verge of being a bust, to be honest with you. I don't want him to be a bust. I like Baker Mayfield. I think he can be a great quarterback. But he looks Cleveland. What are we gonna do with you? I can't get rid of him either. I think we should sell both Cleveland and Baltimore and New York and pick new teams. Then we have at 24, I got Denver. Again, this is a team that out of all the 0-4 teams, I thought Denver was the most likely to make a playoff run because of, I like Joe Flacco. I thought they had a decent offensive line. I thought they if they could run the ball, they take some of the pressure off of Flacco. And then they go out and get embarrassed they get embarrassed by Matt freaking Moore. Freak. That's just embarrassing. You have a prime opportunity to take advantage of an injury. An unfortunate situation. Unfortunately for Kansas City, they ended up losing their quarterback. What are you going to do? It happens. But that's when you got to strike when the iron's hot. And I still like Denver. I know they're 2-5 now, but I still like Denver. I still think they can make a push. They'll probably end up 6-10, but it is the NFL, and we've seen it any given Sunday. Anything can happen. Moving on to Tampa. I don't have a lot to say about Denver. Moving on to Tampa. I got a friend, Bradley Walker Report. Check out his show. I was on his show last night, on his podcast, or on his weekly show over there on Talk Shoe, the NGSC Sports Network, I think is what it is. A great show. Really love talking to Brad. Love hanging out with him. He had me on the show the whole night last night, and we talked everything. So check that out, episode 20. It's a good show. It's the best show. You gotta check that out. But we were talking about Tampa Bay, and they're a mess. I don't understand the NFL right now. The whole idea was parity, was that you would be able, within a year or two, maybe 5, within 5 years, you could rebuild your franchise. Maximum 5 years, you could build a competitive franchise. And Jameis Winston is not the answer. He threw 5 picks, had 2 fumbles. He was like 18 for 46 or something like that. They don't have a reliable backup that they can go to put him on blast and be like, hey, look, do you want a contract or not? Because the way you're playing, you're not getting another contract. And going into the year, I said that Jameis Winston didn't have to play world lights out. Jameis Winston just couldn't play bad. He didn't have to win games. He just couldn't lose you games, right? And that's what I said. I said Jameis Winston can't lose you games. He's just got to play well enough to not lose you games. A couple more touchdowns than interceptions. Hold on, responsible with the ball. Don't fumble. Don't make errant throws. Don't throw 5 picks in a game, and you'll be all right. And Tampa Bay could have been a competitive team, but then again, in this wonky NFL season, 3 weeks ago they go out and blow out the Rams, 55-40. But then their defense gives up 40 points. I mean, it's a 15-point win, and it looks like a blowout. But your defense is so porous, they give up 50 friggin' points. Or 40 freaking points. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't understand what to do with these teams because they're so miserable. But the NFL has gone so far out of its way to make it so that you can make moves, free agency, the draft, and we have scouting departments that are hundreds of people deep, and they go around the country. They're in California, and they're in Texas, and Florida, and in Michigan, and Ohio, and New York, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and they're out in Montana, and they're digging up these prospects, and and yet you still can't find halfway decent talent. I don't get it. I just don't get it. And we'll talk about GMs here in a minute. So moving on to the Chargers. The other LA team. A team that I thought was going to be better. I think not having Melvin Gordon for the first 4 weeks did hurt them. I think Phillip Rivers doing Phillip Rivers things has hurt them. And Phillip Rivers is such a conundrum. He's such a great quarterback, but he makes bonehead throws. That pick that he had against Detroit was just a bonehead throw. It was a stupid throw. He threw. And Slay is has outside leverage. Where does he put the ball? Outside. If he throws that up the field, throws it to the sideline. If this is Slay is here, right? This is Slay. This is his receiver, and I forget which receiver it was. And Slay has outside leverage, right? If he throws that ball inside, Slay can't make a play on it. And was it the wrong route? Maybe maybe the receiver turned the wrong way. Maybe that's on the receiver. I'd have to go back and watch the film. And it's the last drive of the game. And then they can't get in the end zone to save their lives last week against Tennessee, a team that stinks. Oh, it's so frustrating. Beyond galling to me. Because these are good football players. Every team has the 53 best players that they can afford, or that were willing to come there. And these are 53 of the best football players in the world. At least on paper, they're supposed to be 53 of the best players in the world. And yet, they can't make the simple plays. They can't do the simple things right. You gotta get a seal here, and you get a seal here, and you go in the gap. And everybody's grabbing. Grab. Nobody's tackling. 60 years we've been hearing it. 60 years. It's the same thing, week in and week out. And it's miserable. Moving on to Tennessee. God, you guys suck. I've said it for this fucking last 40 minutes. Y'all suck. Because you can't get out of your own way. Yeah, you managed to win. I give up. You 1 week you look like you go out and you beat things. Chargers, last week you beat the Chargers on a gift. The Chargers gave you the game. And the week before that, you couldn't do anything. You bench Mariota, the guy that you traded for, the guy that you went out and you got. And I heard that the Eagles really wanted him. Blech. Sorry about that. That was just incredibly attractive. The Eagles offered them everything and the silver platter, like 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and the keys to the city. And I would have done that in a heartbeat. If I was the GM in Tennessee, I would have taken that deal. I would have taken that deal in a heartbeat. But I don't know. I don't know what to do with Tennessee. I don't know how to make them better. I don't know if it's coaching, if Mike Vrabel's not the answer. I don't know if it's the, obviously the quarterback play has not been nearly as good as it should have been by Mariota or Tannehill. I like Tannehill. I thought he could have been a good quarterback. Not a great quarterback, but a good quarterback. So I don't know what to do with him. Pittsburgh, next, 20th. Then this will round out your top 20. Pittsburgh at 20th. I still like them. I still think they can be a threat. They got a good defense. They got a great head coach. If Mason Rudolph comes back this week and plays well, and he plays inside himself and doesn't try to win the game on his own, they'll be fine. I really like Pittsburgh to be that second wild card team. I think that they can be a very good team overall, and so that's what I'm looking at in terms of Pittsburgh. The jury's still out on them, so I'm not going to say too much about them. We'll rant about them next week. 19 is Arizona. Wow. A team that I had for dead. I had buried Arizona 3 weeks ago. They were done. They were done. And Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, they've come on strong, and they look like they got a good thing going there. And I really think that they can be a serious contender for a wild card spot in the AFC and the NFC, especially if they continue to play as well as they have. They play Seattle at least one more time. They play San Francisco at least one more time, and then who else is in that division off the top of my head? I'm forgetting. Arizona, Seattle, San Francisco, and the other West Coast team in the NFC. The NFC West is the Rams. And they'll get the Rams at least one more time. I can't remember who else played who yet. And they beat the Giants last week, and I know the Giants aren't a good football team. I hesitate to say that because I think they are. I think they're a piece or two away from being a playoff contender in the NFC East. So I think it's a nice win. I got them at 19. I got them ahead of everybody else. I probably should have them ahead of Jacksonville, but I'm just, the jury's still out on them. I have Jacksonville at 18. I like Jacksonville. I like Gardner Minshew. He's fun to watch. He's got a great personality. So that's why I have the Jaguars at 18. Next, we have the Bears. I don't have a lot to say on the Jags, so we're just gonna move right on. The Bears. When the year started, that Bears defense looked like world beaters. They looked like they couldn't be beat, and they looked like they didn't need Mitchell Trubisky to be anything more than average. And now they're 3-4, and they're 2 games back, and they beat the Packers on Thursday night to open the season, the 100th anniversary game in Ncaa at Soldier Field in a defensive battle and a throwback to old school football. They made Aaron Rodgers look silly, and then all of a sudden they lose to Oakland, they lose to the Saints, and they look silly in both games. They look goofy. They look like they didn't know what to do. Chase Daniels looked like a perennial backup. The reason why he never got a starting job anywhere because he's no better than a backup. I wouldn't even say he's a borderline starter. He's a borderline backup at this point. So, the Bears, I'll talk about the Bears. I have some ideas what to do with the Bears. We'll get into that in a little bit. The Rams moved up a little bit this week, a couple of spots because of just playing well. Um, they looked good against Atlanta. I know it's Atlanta. Atlanta's trash, but you don't get to pick your schedule. You don't get to pick when you play them. And you don't get to pick who you're playing, who they're playing, who they're playing, who their players are. So I I think the Rams are a competitive team, and I don't know. I know they're 4-3 now, and yeah, I have them behind Detroit, and I have them behind Philly. Um, they could. This is a tell-it-all. This is a tell-all week for me. This is week 8. To me, this is the most important mark in the season before week 12. I don't really put a lot of stock in. And another thing, I've said this 3 weeks in a row, and I'll say it again. I don't put too much stock in having in. There's a word I'm looking for. Um, I don't put too much stock in strength of schedule in the NFL. In the NFL, I don't put too much stock in strength of schedule. I do in college football because college football you get to make your own schedule at least for the first 4 games. You get to pick who you're playing, you get to pick where you're playing. Of course, they have to agree to come play you, but for the most part, you can pick some weaker opponents to get your season started off right in college football. But in the NFL, it's all computer generated. It's league done. You don't get to pick who you're playing when you're playing and who their players are, and in any given week. Um, so that being said, we'll move on to Detroit. Detroit. Now my hometown team. I'm born in Michigan, live in Tennessee. Born and raised in Michigan, lived in Michigan for over 20 years. Lived in Alabama for a couple of years. I've lived in Tennessee ever since. Well, I moved back to Michigan for a little while. Now I reside in Tennessee because all my exes live in Texas. That's not true, but it's funny. The reason why I kept Detroit at 15 for this week is because of how they lost to the Packers. I gave them a pass for losing to the Vikings because of how they lost to the Packers. Um, and because of the teams, because I don't know if L.A., Chicago, Jacksonville, or Arizona are better than Detroit right now. Those are the 4 teams that I have, behind them that I think could make a move here in the next couple of weeks. That could be that are threats for wild cards and maybe even steal a division. At 14, I got Philadelphia. Philadelphia is such a conundrum to me because they beat who did they beat last week? They beat somebody halfway decent. Oh, give me 1 second. Let me look it up. Philadelphia Eagles. The Feagles. And they lost to Dallas. They lost to Minnesota. I forgot they lost to Minnesota. And they beat the Jets. Then they lose to Minnesota and lose to Dallas, who lost to the Jets. I can't figure this season out yet. Um, I don't get it. Philadelphia, coming up 2 years ago, they won a Super Bowl. They win a Super Bowl, and they have a for the most part they stayed an intact team. Last year they had some injury issues. And then they lose Nick Foles, and now Carson Wentz isn't playing up to his potential, and all of a sudden they look like they've backslidden from where they were. Then this week they got Buffalo, a game that they should win. I don't know if I'm gonna take them, but I'm this week they got Buffalo in Buffalo. I don't know. They're 2-1 at home and 1-3 on the road. This is a make it or break it week for Philadelphia. This is a savior week. This is a savior season weekend in Buffalo or in Philadelphia. Excuse me. Well, it is in Buffalo for Philly in Buffalo. Then you have at 13 moving up one spot or staying where they were. you have the Eagles. What are we gonna or the Cowboys? Uh, the Cowboys. That's a team that I don't know. I don't know what the Cowboys are. Are they the team? I'm gonna jump over to the Cowboys real quick. Give me 1 second. Um, they have their third in passing offense, fourth in rushing offense, number one in total yards per game. But then they lose to San. Oh wait, never mind. That was preseason. They lose to New Orleans, Green Bay, and the Jets. Okay, I can give you New Orleans and Green Bay, both very good teams. I'll grant you that. But then you lose to the Jets. Oh, and they're off this weekend, so they won't play again until the 4th of November. The Jets. So we'll see. Um, we'll see what happens this next couple of weeks with the Cowboys. Right now they lead the division. They're 4-3. Can they? They didn't. They made one move. They went out and got Bennett from the Patriots, and we'll see. At 12, I have Carolina. I like what they're doing. I think they're gonna be a good. I think they're gonna make moves. I think they could be a wild card team. I don't know if they can compete with the Saints yet, but we'll see. I like Keenan Allen. I love Christian McCaffrey. That defense, Luke Kuechly's got that defense clicking again. Ron Rivera, maybe I'm throwing it out there. NFC Coach of the Year, maybe, especially if they continue to win. Um, Other than that, yeah, that's about all I got to say about Carolina, because um, they were on the bye this week. So were they on the bye? I forget who they were on. I forget if they played or they were on the bye. Did I? I think they were on the bye. Um, yeah, they were on the bye. So not much to say about Carolina other than that. Now I goofed up and I should have had Houston at 11 after losing to Indianapolis. I thought they won, so that's why I was thinking that Houston had won. It was actually Indianapolis that won. I think Deshaun Watson is a great quarterback. I think he has potential to become a superstar in this league, and a 15-year franchise kind of guy. I really like him. I really, really, really do, because I think he's a great quarterback. And cancel. And so he's one of my favorites. He's one of the yeah, okay. Oh, okay. I can, you know, I don't know. Then at 10, I got Kansas City after winning against Denver. They only moved up one spot because, again, I like the teams that are in front of them better, especially if Mahomes misses an extended period of time. Now, they're not ruling him out for Sunday. Why, I don't know. But if he can go, he can go. He shouldn't go. He should not go. I would hold him out. Are they playing? Oh, do they have a Monday night game? They might be on Monday night. Let me scroll forward and see. No, they're not on Monday night. Are they off this week? Oh, no, they're the Sunday night game. Packers and Chiefs. Oh. This is going to be a tell-it-all weekend for both teams. Because if Mahomes plays and plays badly, it could really ruin his confidence. And he could hurt himself even worse. And that's one thing that I don't like about bringing a guy back to, or putting a guy in the putting a guy on the field that's not ready to go, because he can hurt something worse and miss even more time. If that knee is bothering him, okay, and I've seen this happen before where a guy had an injury to one side of his body. I think it was his right knee, right? Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was his right knee that he hurt. Dislocated his kneecap. And they popped it back in. He's sore. If he goes, does he trust that knee? If he doesn't trust that knee, he can stress his left foot, his left knee. He can put all his weight on his left knee, and he can injure his right foot. because if he's putting too much weight, he can hurt his left knee or his right foot or his back. He can put too much stress on his back because his knees aren't right, or because his knee isn't right, and that can be a trigger that can put him in a lot of that can start a career of injury problems for him. So if I was the Chiefs, my long-term franchise health is more important than winning a mid-season regular season game. If I'm Andy Reid, if I'm the Chiefs organization, I'm not worried about losing to the Packers in this week. Still a lot of football left to play. They're 5-1 or 5-2. A lot of football to go. A lot of stuff to be decided yet. No need to rush him back. No need to play him if he's not ready to go. Take the L and get out of there as healthy as possible. Moving on to Buffalo, another team that didn't play last week. I got them at 9. I like them. I do. I like their defense. I like how Josh Allen has progressed. If he plays smart, plays within himself, he doesn't try to do too much, doesn't try to win the game all on his own, they can beat Dallas. Or Philly. They can beat Philly. It's a 1:00 kick. It's in Buffalo. Weather could be a factor. Let's do a little bit of Buffalo, New York weather Sunday. Let's look up the weather. Let's see what the weather's going to be doing we'll go to the 10-day forecast from the Weather Channel. This is from the Weather Channel, so it's reliable. It's not some kooky off-the-wall site. It's raining today, raining tomorrow. Sundays, saying partly cloudy with a high of 46 and windy. Very, very windy. 14 mile an hour from the west-southwest. Gusting up to 20 with a humidity of 67%. It could rain. It could be rainy. It's going to be cold. And thankfully, it's an afternoon game, so it probably won't get below freezing by the end of the game, depending on how long the game goes. Looking like it's going to dry out and be windy all weekend. Oh, wait, no. That's wrong week. Oh, that's next week. That Sunday. Oh, it is going to be rainy. It's going to be rainy and high winds from the south-southwest. Watch that be a miserable game to watch. I like Buffalo. I'm going to stick with them. Now, at Minnesota at 8, they could be 7, they could be 6. I like Minnesota. I like Dalvin Cook. I like Kirk Cousins has come on, or Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins? No. Yes, Kirk Cousins. He's come on strong. He's done exactly what he's needed to do the last few weeks. Looked good. Looked smart. So when it comes to it, I like the direction that Minnesota is headed. So I got them at 8. At 7, I got your Colts. You Indianapolis Colts fans out there. Any of the Colts fans in the chat? You guys have put on an absolute show when it comes to that. You guys have been excellent. You've put on a show for the first part of the year, and you guys have been absolutely outstanding. You're the first team to shut down Kansas City. You looked really, really good. You beat Houston. So I like where you're going. At 6, I have Green Bay because I'm not sold on the Pack Attack Jack because of the way they lost to Detroit. One against Detroit. My bad. I misspoke. Then they're still an iffy team to me. I know they're 6-1, but they did lose to the Eagles and lost in a very incredibly disappointing fashion to the Eagles. So, that being the thing, so I'm not sold on Green Bay. At 5, I got Seattle. I like Seattle. Slipped a couple of spots, with the loss to Baltimore. Just mainly because of how they lost. They didn't look very good against Baltimore. So I got them slipping back 1 spot. Or 2 spots, actually. Baltimore moving up 1 spot. I'm sold on Lamar Jackson. I think another guy that's going to be a 15-year... if he stays healthy, proviso against all these quarterbacks, these young guys like Mahomes and Minshew and Daniel Jones. If they can stay healthy, they're gonna be. I think they can all be 15 or 20-year guys. At least 10-year guys, 10, 15-year guys. 20 years being lofty expectations for any quarterback. We've only had a handful. Have we ever had a quarterback play 20 seasons at a high level like Tom Brady? I don't think so. Baltimore, I think they're on the bye this week. I wish it would say who the bye teams were. Let me check NFL.com. And they might say, they might know. Dun, 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 dun. The height of professionalism. Hey, this is the unscripted. Everything is off the cuff. Everything's on the fly. Ooh. Damn. And they are not saying it, but I don't see them on here, so I think they're on the bye this week. Yep, okay, the Cowboys and the Ravens are the byes this week. Alrighty, cool. Good to know. I had to scroll all the way to the bottom to find it, but I did find it. Alright, so that's your bye teams of New York, Dallas, and Baltimore. At number 3, I got the Saints. I know a lot of people wanted me to put them number 2. I don't, because if you've lost a game and a team hasn't lost a game, you get to go ahead. You have a loss. They have a loss. I really don't care about quality losses or quality wins. I don't believe in those things because to me they're irrelevant. At number 2, I got San Francisco. I like Cisco. They did what they needed to do to win. It was a sloppy, messy game. I don't think it's fair to say that Garoppolo played bad. Every quarterback would have played bad in that weather. He had 153 yards and a pick. They ran the ball. They killed clock. One of the shortest games in NFL history, and they got out of there with a win. And that's what they needed to do. Who do they have this week? Just a little bit of a preview, and we'll really get into previewing the they got the Panthers. Should be a good one. Really a statement game. A very important statement game for the Niners. If they win, they're definitely a much better team than people have been giving them credit for. If they lose, I'll take my medicine. But I really like the Niners. I really like what they're doing down there. That defense is excellent. And then number 1 goes without saying, your New England Patriots. Any Patriots fans out there, type 1 in the chat if you're a Patriots fan. Because what they do, why they're the best team is because they're the best organization from top to bottom. From ownership, GM, head coach, quarterback, coordinators, they have the best coaches, they have the best players, they have the players that buy in week out. You don't have the New England Patriots players arguing with coaches. And when you do, you get shipped out. Bye-bye. Don't need you. Can't win. We can't win with you, but we won't lose with you. And that's why they're gone. And that's why Bennett's gone, because he was arguing with coaches, and that just doesn't fly in New England. It's a dictatorship, and that's the end of it. You may be a great player, and you may be the greatest player to have ever laced them up, and if you have no autonomy, it's either Bill's way or no way, and Ask Bennett. Ask Albert Hainsworth. Ask anyone who's been let go by that organization for smart mouthing. You don't get a say. Now, that's not to say that they're not inflexible. You don't get the final say. But Bill's word is law in New England. Mr. Kraft's word is law in New England. And that's why they're the greatest team of all time. Because it transcends sports. They're the greatest franchise, they're the greatest business, they're the greatest business model in all of sports. Because of the ownership, management, coaching, everything. From the top to the bottom, from start to finish. They're the best. And so, now that that's finished, let's go ahead and jump over and do our picks for the week. Because that's what we need to do next. And we're running out of time here. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of time. Okay, so this week's college football, and then this is the one I needed. I got Houston and MSU. I already got that one wrong. Fun. Again, I didn't know SMU was that good. So then you got Oklahoma versus K-State. And I'm going to take Oklahoma to win 45-7. Then you've got Wisconsin coming off a huge, disappointing, shocking loss to who did they lose to? Illinois? Yes, Illinois. I think it's going to be close. I like Ohio State 41-38. Oklahoma State in Ames to take on Iowa State. I like Iowa State 27-13. Maryland at Minnesota. I like Minnesota 45-14. Texas at TCU. Boy, has TCU fallen off the map. I like Texas. I really like Texas. I'm gonna go 31-17. Boston College has no chance against Clemson. Watch them win. So you only have a handful. Okay, so I'm gonna go Clemson 45, BC 10. Moving on to the next one. And I'm just going column. So some of these games are early kicks, some of these games are late kicks. Arizona State at UCLA. I like Arizona State in that one. 47-27. Yeah, I like Arizona to roll. I really like what Herm Edwards has done down there. He's really turned that program around, made them an actual competitive program. And yes, pen and paper. This is how I keep the things in order without having to open up 300 windows. I got 6 tabs open right now as it stands. Washington at Oregon. I like Oregon. I like Oregon big. That's a late kick. 42-7. Going back up to the top, so back to your early games. Iowa at Northwestern. I like Iowa. I like Iowa. I think it's going to be close. I'm going to go 24-21. App State taking on one of my former schools, South Alabama. And I like App State 49-16. A little bit of an odd score there. Penn State over Michigan State. Penn State's going to roll. They're a very good team. Michigan State is a dumpster fire. A lot of problems. This may be Mark D'Antonio's last year in MSU, so we will see. Penn State 38, Michigan State 9. Auburn LSU, probably the biggest game of the day. Number 2 and number 9, at least the highest matchup. This is a tough one to pick. I like LSU. I like LSU to win. I like LSU to win going away, win comfortably 38-25, and LSU puts it away late. Arkansas and Alabama. I don't know if Arkansas is even going to show up. I'm not sure if they want to show up. This is a trap game for Alabama because Alabama has some big games coming up. I gotta say, I think they have LSU next week. Or in a couple of weeks, actually. Yep, they have LSU in a couple of weeks. I don't see them looking ahead to LSU, but they could. They might. They very well could. Arkansas, but it is at Bryant-Denny Stadium, so yeah, I'm gonna say Alabama. I'm gonna say Alabama 50-0. Sure, why not? A little bit of a goofy score. Let's take that one, and let's go with that. Then the biggest game for me this year, for my team, my home team, Notre Dame at Michigan. Yes, I want Michigan to win and win comfortably, but I don't think they will. I think it's going to come down to a last-second field goal. I'm going to say Michigan 24, Notre Dame 21. California at Utah. The Utes, a team that could win the Pac-12. I like the Utes to win. I like the Utes to win comfortably. I'm going to say 31-13. Kind of another one of those games where they put it away late. Looking ahead to next Thursday, to Halloween. A couple of interesting games on Halloween. And so we got these first games. This is week 10 of the college football season. So you got West Virginia, and you've got Baylor. I like the Bears. I like the Bears big. I'm going to say 45-7. And then you got Georgia State, who beat Tennessee in Tennessee. The first time that's happened in forever. Or was it? That's Georgia Southern, isn't it? Yeah. And App State. Again, I like App State. I think they're a competitive team. We'll see what they do, but I like App State to win comfortably 44-27. All right, that's the college season. That's the college preview for this week. Thank you for bearing with me while I write it all down so that I can keep it in order. We'll see what happens. Should be a lot of fun. Should be a lot of good games. So now we're going to jump over to the NFL. Do the NFL's Week 9. So this is Week 9 of the NFL. Is this week? Actually, this is Week 8. I'm sorry. This is Week 8 of the NFL. Week 9 of the college football, Week 8 of the NFL. So you've got the Seahawks at Atlanta. Seahawks at ATL. I still like the Seahawks. I like them to win big. Atlanta is a mess. Russell Wilson is 29-7 coming off a loss, so I like Atlanta to win. I like Seattle to win and win big. They will score 35. Atlanta will score 10. Eagles and Bills, a team that I've been riding all year. The Bills, a team that I've been on the bandwagon ever since the Patriots game when they showed up against New England. I still like Buffalo. I don't know what the Eagles team's going to show up. Is it the Eagles team that beat the Packers or the Eagles team that got embarrassed to the Cowboys? Don't know. We'll find out. So I'm going to take the Bills, and I'm going to say 21-13. Kind of an ugly game. Remember, that could be a weather game. They're projecting 90% chance of showers, high winds. If the Bills can run the ball and not have to put it on Josh Allen's arm, they will win. Bears and Chargers in at Soldier Field. I'm gonna take the Chargers, and I'm gonna am I gonna take the Chargers? Kind of an upset special. Do I want the Chargers? Yeah, yeah, I want the Chargers. I want the Chargers. I'm gonna say 21-16. That's my upset. That's one of my upset specials. You know, you have one of those games every week where something crazy happens, something crazy is going on, and you just don't know. So yeah, I'm gonna take the Chargers. Lions and Giants in Detroit. I like the Lions. I know they got rid of Quentin Diggs, but I still like the Lions. This is a make it or break it for both teams. Uh, I like the Lions 24, Giants 13. Probably going to lose that one. Probably going to get that one wrong. And you can call me out for it. Raiders and Texans. Raiders and Texans in Houston. Should be a good one. Should be at least an interesting one. I don't know. Depends on if Derek Carr plays or not. Such a tough toss-up game. Texans are 6-6. Texans have 6 one possession games this year, tied for the most in the NFL. Who do I like? I like the Texans 28-25. Jets and Jags. In Jacksonville. The Jags should roll big. The Jets are just miserable. Leonard Fournette has run away with it, run over people since week 4. So I am going to take the Jags. I'm going to go 27-9. 27-9 Jags. Bungles and the Rams. The Rams, this is a London game. Okay. With the Rams being the home team. 24-13 Rams. Cardinals and Saints should be a good one. Really will be a test of their mettle. Can the Cardinals show me something? Can they play with the Saints? This is the part of the season where I start to take stock of who you're playing, how you're playing, what you're doing against good teams, because now we start to see who the good teams and who the pretenders and contenders really are. I don't like doing that after weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, because there's so much fluctuation, there's so much goofiness going on early in the season where we don't know who's gonna. We're starting to get in the meat of the season. We're starting to get to that point where you wanna show what you have, and we start to know who you are. So I'm gonna say the Saints. I like the Saints. I like the Saints. I like the Saints 27-15. Bucks and Titans. I think this game's going to be miserable. I don't think either team scores many points. I think the Titans win this 10-7. Should be an ugly, ugly game. Panthers and Niners. Should be a good one. This is probably the biggest game in the Niners season so far. Definitely a prove-it game. Definitely against a good team. And same thing for both teams, really, honestly. In all honesty, both teams really need to show up and show out and prove that they're both good teams. And so this will go a long way to proving whether or not they're a good team. So I do like the Niners. I'm going to stick with the Niners. I'm going to go 27-24. The Broncos and the Colts. I like the Colts. I like the Colts relatively big. I'm going to say 30-13. I just think the Indy's a much better team. Now, looking at this here, the Denver Broncos have played 4 one-possession games, or 7 one-possession games, and they're 4-7 in those games. Or 4 of 7 games have been one-possession games. Excuse me, I misread it. Forgive me for misreading. What can I say? What do I want to say about that? I want to say that the Broncos are a better team than their record says that they are, but we all know you are what your record says you are. So, again, Indy wins. New England, Cleveland in New England. Cleveland's got to go to Foxborough. Should be a laugher. I'm gonna take it as a laugher, and when they lose, all right, whatever. But I'm gonna say they're gonna shut the Browns out. And I'm gonna say 44-0. Mark it down. Packers and Chiefs. This is a hard game for me to take because this is a hard game for me to pick because I don't know if Mahomes is going to play. And this is the only thing that sucks about doing this on Friday before the games have started. I'm going to tentatively say the Packers, depending on who they win. If the Chiefs start Mahomes or more. If they start more, I definitely like the Packers better. But if they start Mahomes, depending on how healthy he is, alrighty then. So we're just gonna go with the Packers. We're gonna go 24-17. The Monday night game, another one that should be a laugher. Pittsburgh to really congeal and gel and get going, get their season right. I like the Steelers over the Finns, and excuse me one second. So I'm gonna take the Steelers, and I'm gonna say 28-7. And then I gotta go ahead. I gotta run real quick up to week 9 and grab the Thursday game so I don't forget. Come on, cooperate. Are you really gonna be this stupid and stubborn? Alright, we'll just do it this way. And Cardinals and Niners in week. The only thing that sucks about doing the show on Friday is I don't get to see what happened this week before I make this pick. But week 9, Niners at Cardinals. I still like the Niners, regardless of what happens. 24-15. Alrighty, and that does it for the NFL season, the NFL previews and all that good stuff. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about, and I got some other topics that I wanted to delve into. I don't know if we're gonna get to everything today or not. That whole segment took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. Appreciate your patience. I was gonna get into the NBA and NHL. Let's get into the World Series real quick before I move on to the next topic that I wanted to discuss. Before we call it a show. I can't. Where'd my freaking mints go? Where did my mints go? I don't know. Eep. They're probably, they're there. Sorry about that. I lost my mints. Yeah, I look like a retard now. Alright, I'm probably gonna get banned for saying that. Anyway, so the World Series, a shocking World Series. Excuse me, 1 second. I gotta go grab a bottle of water. Not sponsored by the water companies, but I do drink your water, and I appreciate you bottling it for me so that I don't have to go get it out of the tap, because tap water is terrible, as far as I'm concerned. There we go. Alrighty, and we're back. Not that we ever went anywhere, but we're still here. So the World Series. The World Series is what I was not expecting. I was not expecting that. I was expecting. I had a terrible feeling that it was going to be a repeat of '06. With a team coming off with a huge layoff, 6-7 days, and I was concerned that they were going to play flat and they weren't going to be ready to go. But the Nats have surprised me. They were able to beat Cole for the first time since May, I think it was. In convincing fashion too. Then they beat Verlander. They hung 7 on him in the 7th inning or something like that. It was a shocking turn of events. Now the series is far from over. It's far from over, but Scotty Bowman, I should say, once said that the series isn't over until you've lost it at home. Well, Houston's lost 2 at home, so it's a tough road to hoe for Houston. They got to have a good showing tonight. Game 3 is tonight. Sanchez and I forget who's going for the Sanchez and Greinke, I think, are on the bump tonight. So I haven't followed baseball as much as I did last 2 years ago. Ever since because I didn't get a lot of baseball down here, just wasn't paying for it. I do like baseball, but I like the game of baseball. I don't want them to change the game of baseball. I tried watching some of those games with the pitch clock, and it just felt so weird. It felt so wrong. I felt dirty watching it. It felt like dirty baseball. I think it should be I think the umpire should speed the play up. I don't think you need a pitch clock. I think it's both batters and pitchers that do it to each other to tighten that psychological edge, because both players are trying to get in each other's heads all game long, and it's digging in and shaking off, and it's about deciding what pitches you want, and maybe the pitcher's on thinking something and the catcher's thinking something else, and he's got to shake him off 3 times because he wants a different pitch, or maybe he just didn't read the sign right, or he didn't get the sign right, and he wants to go through the signs again. All right, I don't think that a pitch clock is necessary, because I think a pitch clock would ruin the game. Honestly, what I would like to see them do is increase the in between stuff. Shorten the in between the innings. Make the pitcher, you get 8 pitches and you got to get back on the mound. I know this is not going to happen because it's TV. TV makes games longer by necessity, because TV's got commercials they got to run. I'm not complaining about commercials. The only sport that I don't like commercials in is auto racing, because you miss action. You can miss action, of course. At places outside of like the big plate tracks in NASCAR or Indianapolis, you're not going to see much. There's not really a lot of stuff going on, unless you're a true racing fan. If you like racing, if you like automotive racing, then having missing stuff because of commercials can be disappointing, because I wanted to watch the racing. But when it comes to other sports, you're not missing much, if anything. If the NFL started to go commercial in the middle of plays, yeah, that would be incredibly irritating. Or the NHL. The NHL, for want of an example, because the NFL and NBA have TV timeouts. If the NHL didn't have it in their rules where they had to, if they had to go to break at 16, and they had to go to break at 12, and they had to go to break at 8, and they had to go to break at 2, and it breaks down to something like that. It's like 16, 12, and 6 is when they have to go to commercial. That's when their scheduled commercial breaks are. And then after certain types of plays, then they go to commercial. And I think anytime they go to replay, they go to commercial. And obviously I got the NHL in, so I got that in there to talk about. So you can't argue that I didn't talk about it. And I talked a little NASCAR, and I'm gonna get to the and I hit the NBA. The NBA has natural breaks, just like the NFL. Change of possession, turnovers, touchdowns, anything like that. They have natural changes. They have natural TV, naturally available TV timeouts. So you're not gonna miss the action. Um, but it'd be really frustrating. If you're not a racing fan, but maybe you're a hockey fan or a basketball fan. Could you imagine in the middle of a play them going to commercial? We'll be right back. Or maybe you're a wrestling fan and you go to commercial, and they go to commercial in the middle of a match. And how frustrating is that? And then you come back and they show you the 2 minutes of the match that you missed. Well, they were in commercial, and it's just frustrating. But I understand it because sports is money and money is business. And every time you say it's a game, I say it's a business. Every time I say it's a game, you say it's a business. And it goes back and forth and back and forth. And it really does show what how the media has changed the game. And that's one thing I did want to talk about. We'll go ahead and get into that now. The other topic that I had for today, the last scheduled topic that I had, quote unquote, is scheduled but not like scripted. Again, none of this show is scripted. The only thing that I have scripted is my power rankings because I have to go over that because I can't do that just on the fly. I need to. My work allows me to have a lot of available time to think about this stuff. So as though it's not scripted, it's not unthought about. I do spend a lot of time thinking about this show and prepping and preparing and getting stats and getting things figured out and thinking about it and putting together arguments, and that's why I like doing this show. If you're in the Von Allen Sports Group, which you should be in, by the way, you should definitely be in that group. One thing I forgot to do. Oh, real quick. One thing I got to do real quick because I'm a boob and I forgot to do this 2 hours ago. Let me mute that, close that, copy. Yeah, you get to see behind the scenes footage too. This is why it's off the cuff and it's unscripted and it's just yeah, it is what it is, right? Nobody replied to that comment, so yes, this is such good streaming content. The least professional sports commentator on the internet. But I do like to try and keep things light here and fun and have a good time with everybody. If you got comments, concerns, questions, don't hesitate to throw your comments in the comment section. Because I'm more than happy to take your comment. And no, that's not what I wanted. This is what I wanted. Yes, there it is. Yay! Here we go. This is what I wanted. And post. There we go. Alrighty, perfect. And that's that. Now, back to what I said. Okay, so I alluded to it in the description that I wanted to talk about sports media. And specifically football and how we think about football and how, in the first 50 years of the NFL, something I forgot that I wanted to look up real quick. That's it. That's first sports talk. I'm curious when the first. Yeah, the first sports talk show didn't get launched until 1964. Radio, at least the first radio show wasn't launched until till 1965 at Seton Hall University. Actually, I'm sorry, March of '64. Bill Mazur, the first sports talk show host, the first sports talk show in history, launched in March of 1964, and that's the thing about it, is that most of the time the sports talk shows have a either national or local focus. Oh, wow. All right, check this out. In 2009, Detroit's 97.1, my home station, WXYT, thanks to the surprising time slot dominance of the show Rennie and Foster, which was a really good show, one of my main influences, in addition to holding play-by-play for all the Detroit teams, became the U.S.'s only sports talk show station to be the highest rated show in their market according to Portable People meter rankings. The station relocated to the FM in October of 2007 after existing on AM for the 7 previous years, replacing free FM hot talk station WKRK. The rating success has led to the WXYT billing itself the best sports radio station in the country. Ah, very cool. Interesting. You get to learn stuff right along with me. How about that? See, the show is informative. Um, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do a show. But to go back to the topic, and talking about football, I think that unfortunately for most, I don't watch a lot of sports talk shows anymore because I do my own show, and B, I just don't feel it's necessary. Because between talking to Bradley Walker every week, or at least listening into his show, he's a great personality. I love talking to him. I love talking sports with him. We talked all the sports last night. It was a great show. It was a 2-hour show. I was there the whole time, and we talked and we conversated and we had a discussion. And that's what I think is missing in sports talk shows right now, is the discussion. It's all about the hot takes, and it's all about about saying something controversial, saying something smart, and being a smart ass. You look at your Rob Parkers, and you look at your Max Kellermans or Stephen A's, or whoever your go-to is for sports commentary. Whoever you might favor, whether it's Mike Golick or maybe it's Ryan Clark, and it's all about saying something crazy and being controversial and making a statement and about antagonizing somebody, or getting under somebody's skin. And it's not about having a logical reason. And then when somebody comes back at you and says, "No, that's not right. That's not, look at, check these things out." And what I wanted to say is, one of the things that I was thinking about that really prompted this topic for me is the idea of sports talk, and the fact that from the 60s, we didn't have any sport. If you wanted sports information, you went to the newspaper, or from the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, maybe in the 40s, radio started becoming a thing. In the 30s, listening to baseball on the radio or listening to sports in general, listening to hockey at the old Olympia when Detroit and New York got together. Or Detroit and Chicago, maybe at the Madhouse on Madison, tuning into a hockey game or catching a baseball game, America's pastime. But up until the 40s, it was either going to the game, actually going to the game in person, or catching, finding out about it in the newspaper. And now anybody can have a sports show. Look at me, I'm a nobody. I literally am nobody. You couldn't find me in a dictionary. You couldn't find me on Google. I don't even appear first on Google with my name, so figure that one out. Having the ability to talk to anybody, anywhere in the world, and I think about it, the first sports show that I really remember listening to and enjoying was Mike and Mike. I really liked their dynamic. I thought they were great together. I understand that things happen. And you don't always get along with your, at some point, you stop being, you can have these things where where you're no longer friends, you no longer work together, and you have to go and do in a different direction. I understand that, but I miss the Mike and Mike dynamic because they didn't have to they could have an agreement without having to disagree, and when you look at Undisputed, or you look at First Take, or you look at or Colin Cowherd's show. I like Colin Cowherd when he was only on radio. When he was only on radio and he didn't have this giant ego, I liked his show. But now that he has such a big ego, I don't really care for it anymore. Not that he's wrong, necessarily, I just don't like watching him. And, with the fact that I can access all the stats, I can access the stats I can access the players nearly as well as any media personality, save from actually getting to talk to them. I can watch all the interviews. I can read all the press clippings just as much as any, it's not like it was in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, that the technology has changed. The game has changed so much so in terms of sports broadcasting that anyone can have an informed opinion. And I also think that what really changed, it was fantasy sports. Having a being competitive in fantasy means spending hours every week studying, learning, watching, listening. You know, being informed is so much more important. And one of the other things that I did to get informed was reading. I read all the books. I read how to play. I learned how to play through reading the books and practicing and going out in the backyard and trying things out and finding out what worked. And a lot of the sports fans grew up playing sports, whether it be high school or college or even making it into the pros. And we're all, at the end of the day, we're all fans of the game we play. Well, at least we in theory we are. We are all fans of the game. We're all people that enjoy watching the game and going to the games and being part of the game. And we're more so than ever part of the game. We have Twitter accounts, Twitter and Instagram and YouTube channels where we can all sit around and talk about this stuff. And it's so hard for me, it's so hard to hear something that I haven't heard or haven't thought of. Watching a broadcast, if it wasn't for the fact that I like the ambient noise, I like the crowd noise, and I like, hearing the players, the smacking of pads, I could almost watch a game without the sound on and call the game beat for beat with whatever the announcers are saying, or and commentate what the announcers are saying, And so I don't feel like I'm being informed of anything that I don't already know. You get tidbits, you get snippets here and there that are interesting factoids that might be like, oh, I didn't know that, or, but I don't get the same insight that I did 20 years ago. Whereas, and I think that's one thing that's very hard for TV to do is give you insight that you couldn't get anywhere else anymore. That's one thing that TV doesn't do anymore, or even just sports journalism sports journalism in general just doesn't have that same. It's not necessary. You don't have to watch, hours of TV to get insight anymore. Because I can go in a click of a button, I can pull up all the stats. Literally every stat. I can go to Pro Football Talk, or not Pro Football, Pro Football Reference, and I can pull up the, if it'll load. Alright, open up in a new tab. Wait, a new window. And I can go year by year. And I can look, let's say I want to know, maybe like I'm doing this show, and I want to say, I want to talk about the 96 NFL season, and I want to know who the AFC East champion was. It was the New England Patriots. And I can see every stat. I can even click on this, and I can even see expanded stats. And it should take me to the 96 Come on, thank you. I can see who the head coach was. I can see the points for. I can see points against. I can see expected wins. I can even scroll over it and see what each individual stat means. Maybe. Well, I thought I could, but I can see who their offensive coordinator was. I can see all their stats. I can see who their Robert Kraft was still the owner. I can see who the owner was. I can see where they played. And I can see who, I have all of this stuff at my fingertips. I don't need NBC Sports to tell me what. Here we go. I'll go back here. I don't need NBC Sports. I don't need Fox Sports to, I don't need Fox Sports to tell me things anymore. That's my point. My point being is that the media has changed the game. The media game has changed because just the fact that I am the media now. Literally, I'm the media. I'm doing my own show. I do guest appearances on other people's show all the time. I'm just as far from being a talking head, and I don't have to put the I can put the same, I can put just as much work into it, and doing one show a week, it may be different than doing 5 or 6 shows a week, or like being on, like Colin Cowherd has 5 shows a week, or Mike and Mike have 5, or Mike and Wingo have 5 shows, or a Get Up is a five show, and and I just love doing this. It's just so much fun. Oops, easy. And it is fun. And that's one of the reasons why I started, that's one of the reasons why I started this show, and why it is what it is because it's more than just me talking. It's trying, I'm not trying to, like regular analytics. He didn't know that Carr got benched. I bring up, and it's things that I know that I can talk about. And now, did the stream go down? Uh-oh. I don't know. Come on. No, okay. Stream is still live. And all right. And as we wrap this show up, about another 10-15 minutes before the end of the show, I did manage to get to everything that I wanted to. I was surprised how long the power rankings took. I did not expect it to take that long. But thanks for sticking it out. Thanks for watching. I appreciate that. It has been fun as always. I do enjoy this show. That's why I do it. I do it because I enjoy it. And I have fun with it. Really, this is about having fun. I'm not sponsored. I don't have any promos. I don't even have any merch, let alone having a sponsorship. That's one of the reasons why I like doing it. I like to be, fair and honest, and I try to strive to not have derangement syndrome of anyone. I try to give you my honest opinion and in a reasonable manner with facts to back it up. And a lot of it has to do with, when I go to power rankings, again, like I've said before, and I've said it in all 3 episodes, and I'd probably say it for another, for the rest of the series. The NFL power rankings are not based on strength of schedule, in my opinion. Because when it comes to college football, and, you know what? I want to shift gears real quick. We're gonna talk one thing that I did want to talk about, not that I mentioned it in the description, but I want to talk about being a GM. I'm gonna close on this because I don't think GMs they get too much credit or not nearly enough credit. They get too much credit or way too much blame. Because when it comes to being a GM, this is something that when we play video games, and I know a lot of us play the Maddens or the 2Ks, maybe even NHL. Some of us, I do, When you can go in and you can tweak things to your liking. You can go and you can make things easier, you can make things harder, you can make it more realistic or less realistic, depending on your personal play style. And when it comes to being an actual GM, not only are you selling your team, you're selling your coach, you're selling your coordinators, you're selling the rest of your and you're also working with the salary cap. When you're playing video games, you can turn the salary cap off. You can make it so it's easy to make trades. You can make it hard to make trades. You can put a hard cap on it, and you can make it hard to make trades. And yeah, you can be more realistic. But when it comes to being a GM, it's selling your team, selling your city, selling your coach, selling your coordinators, selling your stadium. All things that go into actually bringing a player in and having the money to pay them. It could be, who's the top free agent next year in the NFL? I forget. Let's say Teddy Bridgewater. I'm not sure if he's got one more. I think he signed a 1-year deal. He's going to be a top free agent. He's going to be a target for a lot of teams, whether they be good teams that need a quarterback or bad teams that need everything. He's going to be a prime target for most GMs. And let's say Miami wants to make a run at him, or Washington. Let's go with Washington. I think they're in a better position to make a run for a quarterback, especially if Alex Smith is calls it a career. Now, Alex Smith may be a target for some players or for some teams. Maybe Arizona or maybe not Arizona, maybe Denver. Um, and you might have everything that Bridgewater or Smith wants, except for the money. Or maybe it's the city. Maybe they don't want to. You have everything else. You have a great team. You have a great atmosphere. Great coaches. But they don't. You don't have the city. They can go play in Miami. Okay. They can go play in. They can go to Miami, or they can go to L.A., or they can go to maybe Philadelphia or New York, or maybe you're Cleveland. Maybe Cleveland is looking to bring in a top name free agent next season. What does Cleveland have to offer that they can't get anywhere else? The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Ooh, that whoop-de freaking do. Vegas is going to become available next year. And Oakland, it might have been harder to sell Oakland, to a player that, maybe a more, and Oakland has a reputation for being a team that's willing to take some of the more dodgy characters, let's say, in the NFL, some of the maybe more questionably moral characters. And now you go to Vegas, it's Sin City, baby, and and it's just win, baby. Sin City, just win, baby. That should be their tagline. Somebody give me Mark Davis's number. I'm gonna sell that to him. I want to copyright that. I'm copyrighting that. Just win, baby. Sin City, just win, baby. Win in Sin City, baby. Just win in Sin City, baby. And when it comes to being a GM, you can want to go get a player. You can make a pitch. You can offer him money. You can offer him sights and sounds. You can offer him a great team, and maybe he doesn't want to move. Maybe let's say Matt Stafford. I'm not sure exactly when his contract is up. Maybe it's next year, year after next. He'll be 30, 32. I think he's 30 this year. He'll be 32 or 33 when his next contract's up. And he doesn't really want to leave Detroit, or at least according to his wife. A press release I saw. I think she put it out on her Insta earlier this year, or earlier today, something like that. But that doesn't mean anything. You cannot want to do something, but if Detroit doesn't want to offer him what he's worth, or what he thinks what he values his play at, maybe he does want to go get a ring. Maybe in a year she changes her mind. Maybe Detroit is just not a good place for him. Maybe Chicago is available. And they have a good team, need a quarterback. And okay, so let's say you're a GM in Chicago. Let's say you're the GM in Chicago. You need a quarterback. Atlanta's a hot mess. You want to go and make a trade for Matt Ryan. You really think you can help your team out. And I think you could help Chicago out and turn them into a Super Bowl contender like that. He gets out of Arizona, he gets out of Atlanta, he gets away from that misery, and he can go from being on a team that's struggling severely, struggling mightily, to a team that's a contender. Maybe they're a pretender, maybe they're a contender. Who knows? We'll see. But if they can make a move to go get a guy like Matt Ryan, I think that makes them instantly better. And obviously it makes them better. Not to say that Mitchell Trubisky is a bad quarterback, but if you can get him for 6 games, 7 games, let Matt Ryan tutor him, and this is, what are you going to give up? And if you give up too much, is it going to be, because I was thinking, a first and a second this next year, a first this year, a second next year, and a first and second this year, and a first and second next year. You let Mr. Trubisky be back up to I will have okay. Let me open my settings real quick. Sorry, I know again, least professional sports commentator on the net. I should have done this all before. I'm not. Oh, video. Here we go. Let me see if I can lower. Yeah, this should have been done. Definitely will. Next week will be a better show. Um, I will have. That looks right. Let me. Yeah, it's being stupid and stubborn, and it's not letting me do that. Oh well. I'll edit the settings next week, and hopefully I'll drop. Hopefully it'll look better, and sound better, and be better. I'm still learning. It's a learning curve. Um, I know as this show winds down, got a couple more minutes left before the end of the show. I do want to say thank you to everyone that came on and watched and checked it out, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully this was informative and you enjoyed learning. You enjoyed it as much as I did. Um, Again, it's just for fun. I don't really care if anybody watches. I'm gonna keep doing this. This was season 1, episode 3 of the Unscripted and Off the Cuff Sports Show. I really do enjoy doing this show with you people. What do you mean, you people? Um, and so to finish up on the GM, and I probably get back into that next week because obviously Tuesday's the trade deadline. We may have some more movement. We have some big moves. There's a lot of big moves in the MLB this last what is the word I'm looking for? Oh, trade deadline. So word I fucking just said it a minute ago, and I totally lost it. Um, but that notwithstanding, the an excellent even if you want to make that trade, maybe Atlanta doesn't want to give up Matt Ryan. Maybe they want to rebuild around Matt Ryan. Maybe they don't want to. Maybe they still think they can make the playoffs, or they can get hot and they can go 8-1 and finish 9-7. And it's so hard being a GM because and it goes back to the if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. And that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking about. When I hear people criticizing, well, why didn't you go get that guy? Oh, and some people were, how did you miss that guy? Or, I was thinking about doing interviews, when you get an interview, one thing that we as fans don't get a chance to do is actually interview someone. We don't get to interview Mitchell Trubisky or Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson. We might think, oh yeah, that would be great. We might. Well, why did you go get him? Or why didn't they? Why didn't the Bears? The Bears passed on Mitchell Trubisky. Passed on Patrick Mahomes. Oh, what a mistake! How dumb could you be? We all knew. No, you didn't, because you weren't sitting in the meetings. You weren't sitting in the draft room. You didn't get a chance to meet with Mitchell Trubisky and talk to him, and see what he can do. And you didn't get to work him out. Yeah, you got to sit and watch Combine, but you weren't on the field. You can sell yourself in an interview. Remember, this doesn't matter where this show's going to run a little long today. I'm going to take a few extra minutes. But remember, when you're having an interview, this applies to business and sports and movies and whatever. If you're trying to sell yourself, if you're in an interview, remember, all you got to do is sell yourself. Remember, everybody has the same skills as you, and they have the same experience, and they have the same level of education as you. What they don't have is your experience. Remember, you can sell yourself. You can make yourself a more valuable commodity by selling your experience. And selling yourself based upon your level of experience. And when you're sitting in whether it be a draft or an interview, whether you're looking for a job or you're at the draft or whether you're a GM or it's about and maybe that's what Mitchell Trubisky did. That's why they went with Trubisky over Mahomes or Watson. Maybe he made a good pitch. Maybe they thought he would fit better in their offense. I mean, we don't know. We don't know what they were thinking. So in conclusion, being a GM stinks. Having in a salary cap era, being a GM stinks because um, it's not so. It's about more than just having money. You know, in a non-salary capped era, teams would be offering their players hundreds. Look at the MLB. The MLB, what Trout got $430 million over the course of the next 10 years or 8 years, some ridiculous, or 12 years. It's 12 years, 30 like $33 million a year. And being as that the MLB has a soft salary cap, where you can, if you spend as much as you want, as long as you can pay the fine, you can pay the taxes, you can spend as much as you want. You know, and whereas the NFL has a hard salary, the NFL and NHL have hard salary caps, where you can't spend any more than what you have. And, whereas 30 years ago, at the end of the 80s, and teams were just throwing money around, and, you could go out and you can spend $50 million on a guy for 2 years. You can spend, I mean, obviously they weren't spending that much, but let's say $30 million for a guy for 2 years. And, $15 million a year was a drop in the bucket, especially to win a championship. And you could sell $30 million worth of merchandise if you won a championship. And that more than paid for the guy to come to your city, come to your town, come to your team, and play for your team for a year or two. And so, in conclusion, thank you for all for watching. I want to thank our law enforcement, our dedicated men and women in uniform, both overseas and domestic, firefighters, and I mentioned law enforcement, firefighters, our domestic, our soldiers, fighting on foreign battlefields and dealing with mental battlefields. If you are feeling messed up in the head, reach out to somebody, talk to somebody. And don't stop. If they don't take you seriously, find somebody that will. Don't ever give up. It won't be better. It'll just it won't hinder your suffering. It'll just create suffering for everyone else. I'd like to thank the doctors and finally, I'd like to thank the doctors and nurses that put us back together after we get done playing these games.